The only people who don't want to disclose the truth are people with something to hide.
Dr. Keith, hold on a second. I want to bring in Pam Geller, a political activist who's been a leader in the birther movement for years. Pam, this document, you've studied the short form that we've had our hands on for a while. What do you think of this one, the long form?
Well, I just want to say that who is this man? 3 years ago, in June of 2008, I broke the story on atlasshrugs.com, a 26-page digital forensic examination of the short form, and it was altered. It was altered. It was a big story then. The media wouldn't touch it. The question is, why wasn't this presented then? Now, I will not do a cursory analysis of this this document. It needs a digital forensic examination analysis. Clearly, maybe we have to thank Donald Trump, because he was the first mainstream guy that legitimized this issue that wrangled 70% of the American people. And maybe now we'll get to see the passport he traveled to Pakistan in 1981. We'll get to see his thesis from Columbia. We'll get to see his Harvard college records. We'll get to see he was the president of the Harvard Law Review. Can we see a piece of paper? Can we see an article that he published? Maybe this will open up the document secrecy that Mr. Transparent and Mr. Open has.
Pamela, were any of these little notations on here? I don't know if our camera can get it. If you close in, you can see some of these numbers that are clearly written in handwriting on the side. We don't know what they are. Trying to figure out a 0, a 2 there, an X up over here, a 1 up here. Were they on the short form?
This is a certification of live birth. When I left the hospital, I left with a birth certificate. I'm sorry I didn't bring it with me, but it looked very much like Donald Trump's. It's a little piece of paper. You got the nurse. You got. Do you know what I'm talking about? Certification. Birth certificate. This is a certification of live birth. This is actually not a birth certificate.
Again, I need to know this. You see this fold? This has clearly been photocopied from a book. You see that? It kind of folds back to almost like the binding of a book.
Yes.
And then for some reason, there's a green border around it that had to be photoshopped in. I'm trying to figure out why they.
Well, this whole border is suspect. I mean, if you're taking a scan of something, it would, to your point, it would be white. Why is this the color of the same?
Note this, you guys. April 25th, 2011, 2 days ago, is when this was requested from the state registrar, Alvin Onaka. So we'll keep our eye on it. We'll keep digging. Hey, listen, it may or may not be, but certainly opens up the can of worms that there are at least questions for it. Okay, Pam, hang on. Very quickly, Pamela, this doctor right here, the guy who signed it 4 days after the birth, he passed away, but his wife today, TMZ, had his wife saying, I had no idea. She didn't know about it. His son said, I had no idea. It came as a complete shock to him as well. If you gave birth to the President of the United States, don't you think your family would know about it?
Yeah, well, maybe he doesn't know about it either. I mean, I think it's very telling that for 3 years he didn't release it. There's a big question there. We have to say why. Why didn't he release it after 3 years? Remember something. Every single president has been scrutinized. Bush, every document of Bush. And when they didn't find what they wanted of Bush, they actually forged the gold standard of journalism, Dan Rather, forged documents for his service in Vietnam. And they knew he volunteered for Vietnam. But we are not allowed to see the birth certificate. We're not allowed to see his school records. We're not allowed to see his applications for school. We're not allowed to see the passport he went to Pakistan on when it was under martial law in 1981. I mean, look how the media protects this man. He's the president. He answers to us.
All right. We want to point out Alvin Onaka, PhD. He's the state registrar. We'll keep an eye on that name as well. Okay. So we want to say thank you to Pam Geller, who wrote in the White House, made the call to release this document. Initially, was it done intentionally to sink Donald Trump's president's hopes?
The only people who don't want to disclose the truth are people with something to hide.